Thanks to Hamilton for sponsoring a portion of this video. Welcome back to the 9th annual Halloween special. Tonight is a very significant episode for me because we're going to be talking about a rather important mini-series in my young life that I saw when I was 10 years old. That is Peter Benchley's Creature, starring Craig T. Nelson, Kim Cattrall, and Giancarlo Esposito. And we'll get into that very soon, but first I want to give a big thank you to Hamilton for sponsoring this portion of the video. A favorite of filmmakers for decades, Hamilton watches have appeared in more than 500 movies with custom pieces playing a pivotal role in several Hollywood blockbusters, including Tenet, Interstellar, Jack Ryan, and the Men in Black franchise. Developed and published by Ubisoft, Far Cry 6 is a first-person shooter video game set in Yara, a fictional tropical island ruled by cruel dictator Anton Castillo, brought to life by actor Giancarlo Esposito. And on October 7th, players will have the opportunity to virtually wear the timepiece in-game in Far Cry 6, and 1,983 pieces of a matching in real life special edition watch will be available for purchase at HamiltonWatch.com. The Hamilton Khaki Field Titanium Far Cry 6 limited edition is built for action in-game and in real life. It helps you complete your missions and adventures in-game and in the real world. It's the wrist gear gamers have been waiting for. In the description below, you can discover the limited edition watch at HamiltonWatch.com/Far Cry 6. I love it. It's extremely stylish. It's very comfortable. It feels really nice on my wrist. And I'm looking forward to playing the game as well, especially with talent like Giancarlo Esposito in it. So please do check out HamiltonWatch.com/Far Cry 6 to learn more about this limited edition watch. Thank you so much to Hamilton for sponsoring this portion of the video. Now let's keep talking about this film. So as a kid, as you guys know, I wasn't allowed to watch a lot of movies. Most PG-13 movies and rated R films I was not allowed to watch unless they were on television edited for content. And so sometimes I got away with watching movies on TV that definitely would have been PG-13 and sometimes even R just because they were on TV. There was some kind of weird thing that somehow released my parents from caring if it was on television. I don't know what it was, but that allowed me to watch movies like Jaws, which was PG, strangely, and Peter Benchley's Creature. And it's really hard for me to call this movie Creature, because I saw this advertisement for it so many times, and it got burned into my head.
The author of Jaws, Beast, and the Deep joins forces with the man who created the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park to bring you a terrifying creature you've never seen before.
It's more than shark you're dealing with. This thing's part human.
Don't expect it to stop at the water's edge. You go after that thing. You're insane. Whatever it is, destroy it now!
Peter Benchley's Creature. Now you're not safe anywhere. ABC May.
In fact, when I talk about this movie, I feel like saying it as fast as that guy did. Peter Benchley's Creature. And eventually it finally came out on Blu-ray, so I was able to watch it in 16:9 instead of 4:3. There's another Peter Benchley TV miniseries/movie that came out in the 90s called The Beast, which was about a giant squid. This Blu-ray is incredibly hard to find. It's extremely out of print and very rare. I don't know what it was about the 90s because we were pretty far away from Jaws at the time, but Peter Benchley's work started to be adapted a lot more for television. And when it comes to Creature, by no means is this film a masterpiece. You're not going to see it listed on the best creature movies of all time, although I do think it has one of the best creatures of all time. This thing was actually made by Stan Winston, the legend himself behind the dinosaurs of Jurassic Park. Rest in peace to him. Him and his crew made an incredible monster. Whatever you want to say about the movie, you can, but this monster was fantastic, and it scared me a lot as a kid. It's covered in slime and goo the whole movie, which of course is the best way you can ever do it. As a kid, Jaws terrified me, and I always thought to myself, well, it's okay, I'll just avoid the ocean. I don't have to worry about Jaws, because I just won't go in the ocean. The thing about Peter Benchley's Creature is that it was based off of his book called White Shark. They called the movie Creature, and later reprints of his book were also called Creature to cash in on that name change. The film stars Craig T. Nelson as a researcher in the Caribbean who's trying to find out why sharks don't die of cancer. His son died of cancer, and he's hoping that some kind of research on sharks and why cancer doesn't kill them could lead to a cure for human beings. His estranged ex-wife, played by Kim Cattrall, and their son meet him on this island. And Giancarlo Esposito plays a man the locals refer to as Werewolf.
Werewolf.
Yeah.
Look, I love him in Breaking Bad. He's phenomenal in Breaking Bad, and it will probably go down as his most iconic role. But I actually really like him in this film. It's a very strange performance, and one that not a lot of people saw or talk about. The reason the film scared me so much as a kid was because the shark in this movie starts as this genetically altered creature, but eventually this thing evolves. It forms lungs and gills as well. So you're not safe when you get out of the water. It can follow you. And the transformation sequence is actually really great. It's kind of disgusting, actually. It vomits all over the floor. I remember that really blew me away as a kid. And although this movie, which I'm just going to call it a movie, even though technically it's a miniseries, it's about 3 hours long, and it was stretched over 2 nights, making it a 4-hour experience with commercials. There's a lot of extra baggage of scenes. There's locals who are practicing voodoo, and it doesn't really seem to have anything to do with the film. There's extra scenes that don't really have to be there. There's a really good 100-minute B-movie creature feature here, and some of the sequences still hold up, mostly because of Stan Winston. Stan Winston and his team designed an incredible monster. There's plenty of Jaws comparisons throughout the film, and possibly even a few direct references, like this sequence.
Yeah, you keep cranking, Frank. Great hat.
Some bad hat, Harry.
The mayor of the town does not believe Craig T. Nelson when he's trying to tell him there's something in the water that's hurting locals. It's not just a regular shark. So there's obviously comparisons to Jaws, and in some ways, there's even a bit of a cut and paste mentality to certain things. But there's enough differences to warrant its own film. Speaking of Craig T. Nelson, his character actually has a really good introduction. They talk about saving the cat when it comes to endearing a protagonist to you, making you care about this person because he does some kind of heroic act. Forget about cats. Craig T. Nelson rescues a pregnant shark that's hooked by a fisherman's line who's just fishing for sport. That's called escalation. Cats, pregnant shark. Pregnant shark wins. Even though at times throughout this movie the direction can feel kind of workmanlike, the director has made quite a bit of television and is still having a very successful career today, there's actually some sequences that are very efficient. There's one scene where the camera goes between 2 floors and features every principal character in this moment, without a single cut. That's how you get stuff done quick, but that takes a lot of blocking and a lot of work to get that done. I know I'm talking way more in depth about this film than perhaps you might have expected, because it by no means was very well received. It has pretty bad reviews on IMDb, and for the most part, people talk about it in a very embarrassing way. But as a television miniseries in the 90s featuring a creature made by Stan Winston and his team, and pretty good acting from Craig T. Nelson and Cress Williams, who plays Black Lightning right now, as well as an insane Giancarlo Esposito performance, Creature was surprisingly better than I expected it to be rewatching it all these years later, because I haven't really seen the movie since I was like 12. I had this thing recorded on VHS. I don't know why, but I must have watched it dozens of times. I became obsessed with this movie for about 2 years between age 10 and 12. It meant a lot to me back then, and obviously rewatching it now, I saw a lot of inconsistencies and extra scenes that didn't have to be there, character work that didn't always add up, and some cheesy moments and the same exterior shots used over and over and over. But honestly, something like this is the exact type of thing I'd like to see remade. You hear that a lot. What can be remade anymore? What should be remade? Most people remake things that were really great or that have an extremely well-known IP. But there's a lot of things that were not too bad or maybe even not great that had so much potential that should be remade. Or at least Peter Benchley's book could be adapted again. And if done right, it could be a really fun horror movie. And I would love to see something like this remade. As a 90s miniseries, it has its place. It did its thing. It works fine. It's very nostalgic for me, even though I recognize a lot of the film's issues, but I do see a lot of potential for this to be remade well. I mean, even scenes like this where it's eating are just cool, man. We need more stuff like this. A real practical monster just eating. It also has a really cool finale, so if you've never seen the end of Creature, I'm going to spoil it here just as a warning. You don't necessarily have to watch this movie. It's definitely going to be something that's more special to me than most viewers, but the ending of the movie is pretty cool. I love how Craig T. Nelson is trying to get this creature's attention to save his family, and he goes to grab this, I don't even know what it is, to beat him up, and he gets startled. I love moments like that in movies where human characters are reminded of how lowly we can be if we are greeted with something that's above us in some way on the food chain. This moment of, yeah, I'm going to protect my family and grab this thing and I'm going to beat this thing up. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, never mind. I love moments like that in these kinds of movies. There's a similar one in Jurassic Park where Alan Grant grabs the flare to go up against the T-Rex. Like, if this movie was remade, I wouldn't even want to do that much different with the monster. I mean, maybe just don't show it quite as much in perfect lighting and have it be in the shadows more. But there's one thing that does not disappoint about Creature, and that is the creature. The way they kill this thing, too, is awesome. They definitely take a page out of the Jaws rulebook by setting up the device that kills the creature early in the film. They have a compression chamber, and they trap this thing inside of it, and Giancarlo Esposito sacrifices himself for everyone. And Craig T. Nelson turns up that chamber as high as he possibly can, and then does this. That's actually really cool. Like, this movie has a lot of issues, and most of it is just being too long, a lot of cheesy moments. It is very much so a product of 90s television. But there are certain things it got really right. Like I said earlier, there's a really fun 100-minute cut of this movie somewhere. If you ever feel like watching a really cheesy 90s television miniseries with a really good monster, check out Creature. It's exactly what you'd expect it to be. Guys, thank you so much as always for watching the 9th annual Halloween special. I'm looking forward to bringing more videos to you guys very soon. As always, if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.